The night the fire came, no one heard it at first, except the dog. The farm slept beneath a heavy blanket of silence. The wind had died hours ago, leaving the fields motionless as if the world itself were holding its breath. Moonlight spilled faintly across the open land, painting the fences in pale silver and stretching long shadows from the barn. Inside the farmhouse, everything was still. Daniel lay sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging over the edge, lost in the deep, careless sleep of youth. Down the hallway, his parents rested peacefully, unaware that the ordinary night they had trusted would soon betray them. But Rusty did not sleep deeply. He never did. Curled near the barn door, the shepherd mix had long ago claimed his place as guardian of the farm. Years of instinct shaped his rest, ears alert even in dreams, muscles ready even in stillness. His amber eyes flickered beneath closed lids, responding to sounds too subtle for human senses. The faint rustle of hay, the distant hum of insects, the soft shifting of animals in their stalls. Then came the crack, sharp, violent, wrong. Rusty's eyes snapped open. For a brief moment the night remained unchanged. The darkness stood firm. The air seemed calm, yet something invisible had shifted. Rusty rose slowly, nose twitching, every nerve suddenly awake. And then he smelled it. Smoke. Not the comforting scent of distant chimneys or burnt wood from a winter fire, but something bitter, thick, crawling. It scraped at the inside of his nose, stinging, urgent. Rusty stiffened. A faint orange flicker danced against the barn wall, small at first, uncertain like a secret trying not to be discovered. But within seconds it grew, brighter, faster, hungry. Flames. They slithered along the dry hay stacked near the corner, moving with terrifying speed. The fire did not hesitate. It did not creep. It attacked. Rusty barked. Once, twice. Then wildly. The quiet farm shattered beneath the force of his voice. It was not the casual bark of a restless dog, nor the playful call of excitement. This was raw alarm torn from instinct older than thought. Inside the barn, the animals stirred. Horses stomped nervously, sensing danger before understanding it. Chickens rustled and clucked in confusion. A cow lowed uneasy. Smoke thickened, curling upward, swallowing the rafters. Rusty raced forward but recoiled from the sudden heat. Flames leapt higher, devouring wood with a furious crackle. Sparks burst into the air like angry fireflies. He barked louder, fiercer, desperate. Across the yard, the farmhouse remained dark. Rusty ran toward it, paws pounding against the dirt. His bark echoed through the stillness, bouncing off walls, slicing through sleep. Inside, Daniel stirred. Somewhere between dream and waking, he frowned. "Rusty," he murmured. The barking continued, relentless, frantic. Daniel shifted, irritation giving way to confusion. Rusty barked at night sometimes, at passing animals, at shadows, at things Daniel never quite understood. But this was different. There was a rhythm of panic in it. Daniel pushed himself upright. The air felt strange, heavy. He rubbed his eyes, still half asleep when a faint glow brushed against his bedroom wall. Soft, flickering, unnatural. Daniel turned. At first, his mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. The orange light pulsed weakly through the window, trembling like something alive. Then came the smell. Smoke. Real. Choking. Daniel's heart lurched violently in his chest. He stumbled to the window and froze. The barn, their barn, was burning. Flames roared upward into the night sky, towering, monstrous, alive with destruction. Firelight swallowed the darkness, turning shadows into trembling giants. Smoke billowed like storm clouds, thick and suffocating. For one impossible second, Daniel could not breathe, could not think, could not move. Then Rusty's bark cut through the chaos below, sharp, urgent, pleading, and Daniel's world exploded into motion. Daniel's world exploded into motion. He tore from his room, nearly tripping over his own feet, his pulse hammering so violently it drowned out everything else. The hallway blurred as he sprinted, slamming his fist against his parents' door. "Dad, Mom, wake up!" The words cracked in his throat. Behind him, Rusty's barking rose into a frenzy, echoing through the house like an alarm bell. Daniel's father jolted awake first, confusion turning to horror the instant he smelled the smoke creeping beneath the door. Within seconds, the farmhouse became a storm of movement. Doors flung open, lights flicked on, voices collided. What's happening? The barn. Oh my God. Daniel didn't wait. Barefoot, breath ragged, he burst into the night. The heat hit him immediately. Even from across the yard, it was staggering. A wall of scorching air that pressed against his skin like a physical force. The barn was no longer a building. It was a blazing furnace, flames raging with terrifying intensity, devouring wood, hay, everything. The fire roared like a living beast. Animals screamed. The sound was unbearable. Horses slammed against their stalls in blind terror, their silhouettes thrashing violently behind curtains of smoke. Chickens shrieked, feathers exploding into the air. Cows bellowed, panicked and confused, their massive bodies shifting frantically inside the inferno. Daniel's chest tightened painfully. The animals, he screamed. He tried to run forward, but the heat forced him back instantly. Smoke clawed at his lungs, thick and suffocating. His eyes burned. Tears streamed down his face, though he barely noticed. His father grabbed his arm. "You can't get close, but they'll die." The barn groaned ominously, beams snapping with explosive cracks. Sparks rained into the sky. Fire surged higher, brighter, merciless. And Rusty moved. There was no hesitation, no fear. Before Daniel could even understand what was happening, the dog bolted past him like a streak of motion, straight toward the flames. No, Rusty. Daniel lunged instinctively, fingers grasping at empty air. Rusty vanished into the fire. For a heartbeat, everything seemed to stop. The flames swallowed him whole. Daniel's mind refused to accept it. His legs trembled violently. His throat closed. The world became noise, roaring fire, screaming animals, his mother sobbing behind him. Seconds stretched into agony. Then, movement. Out of the choking smoke, a shape burst forward. Rusty. His fur was already singed, his body outlined in ash and sparks. But he was alive, eyes blazing with fierce determination. He charged directly toward the horses, barking sharply, snapping at their legs. Driven by instinct and terror, the first horse broke free. It thundered through the barn entrance, nearly colliding with Daniel as it fled into the open field. Another followed. Then another. Rusty darted between them, herding, pushing, commanding. Daniel stared in disbelief. He's getting them out. The fire raged louder, collapsing sections of the roof. Smoke thickened into suffocating clouds, yet Rusty turned back without pause. He ran into the flames again. This time, chickens burst outward in frantic chaos, wings beating wildly. Rusty's bark cut through the madness, guiding, driving, forcing them toward safety. Cows stumbled forward next, massive and terrified, their hooves striking sparks from the ground. Rusty moved relentlessly, ignoring the fire licking at his body. Again he disappeared. Again he emerged, each time dragging life from destruction. Daniel's terror shifted into something else, something deeper, heavier, almost unbearable. Hope. "No dog should have to do this," his mother whispered, voice trembling. But Rusty did not stop. He ran back inside, again and again. Each trip grew slower. The fire no longer flickered. It thundered. Flames tore through the barn with savage intensity, twisting upward like molten waves. The wooden beams groaned under the assault, splintering, collapsing, surrendering piece by piece. And still Rusty ran. He burst from the smoke once more, coughing, staggering slightly before regaining his footing. His fur, once thick and golden brown, was now charred in patches, blackened and curling. The air shimmered around him with unbearable heat, but his eyes remained locked on the barn, focused, unyielding. Daniel's chest ached as he watched. "Rusty, please," he whispered, his voice lost beneath the roar of destruction. The animals that had escaped clustered in the distant field, trembling silhouettes beneath the fiery glow. Horses paced nervously. Cows shifted restlessly. Chickens huddled together, disoriented and silent now, as if even their fear had been exhausted. But one sound still cut through the chaos. A calf, faint, desperate. Daniel heard it at the same instant Rusty did. The dog's ears twitched. Without hesitation, despite the tremor now visible in his legs, Rusty turned and charged back into the inferno. "No!" Daniel screamed. He surged forward instinctively, only to be pulled back again by his father. The heat had intensified, waves of it blasting outward violently. Smoke, alled across the yard in thick, suffocating clouds. "You can't go in," his father shouted, voice raw. Daniel struggled, panic and helpless rage exploding inside him. He's going to die. The roof sagged dangerously, embers cascading downward like fiery rain. The calf's cries weakened, swallowed by smoke. Seconds crawled by. Long, cruel. Then a shape emerged, Rusty. But he was no longer running. He stumbled. His movements were uneven, unsteady, his body shaking violently with exhaustion. Soot coated his face. His breathing came in ragged, painful bursts. Yet beside him, the calf, terrified, coughing, barely able to stand. Rusty nudged it forward gently, barking weakly, urging it toward the open field. Every step seemed to cost him enormous effort. Daniel's heart shattered at the sight. "Come on, come on," Daniel whispered desperately. The calf bolted free at last, collapsing safely onto the grass before scrambling away toward the herd. Rusty stopped. For the first time, he did not turn back. He stood at the barn entrance, framed by flames rising behind him like a burning doorway to another world. His chest heaved violently, his legs trembled uncontrollably. The barn groaned, a deep, terrible sound. Daniel's father's voice cut through the night. "The roof!" Time seemed to fracture. Rusty lifted his head. For a brief, impossible moment, his amber eyes found Daniel, not wild, not panicked, but calm. There was something hauntingly gentle in that look, something that felt like understanding, like farewell. "Rusty, run!" Daniel screamed, his voice breaking into raw agony. The world exploded. With a deafening crash, the roof collapsed inward, beams and fire cascading in a violent avalanche. Sparks erupted into the sky, smoke and flame swallowed everything. Rusty vanished. Daniel's scream tore through the burning night, but the fire did not answer. It roared on, indifferent, consuming what little remained of the barn. The collapse sent a violent storm of sparks spiraling into the sky, glowing embers drifting like shattered stars. Smoke rolled endlessly across the fields, thick, suffocating, final. Daniel fell to his knees. His father's grip loosened, but Daniel no longer tried to run. There was nowhere left to go, nothing left to fight. The inferno had become a wall of destruction too vast, too absolute. His mother's sobs echoed behind him. The animals trembled in the distance, their shapes ghost-like through the haze. Alive. Every one of them alive. Every one of them because of Rusty. But Rusty, Daniel's chest convulsed as grief ripped through him with brutal force. His hands dug into the dirt, fingers trembling violently. The heat still pressed against his skin, yet he felt nothing but a cold, crushing emptiness spreading inside him. Hours blurred together. Sirens eventually pierced the darkness. Neighbors arrived. Voices murmured. Water hissed uselessly against flames already dying from lack of fuel. The fire, having devoured everything it wanted, slowly surrendered to exhaustion. By dawn, the barn was gone. Only a smoldering skeleton remained, blackened beams, twisted metal, endless ash. The once familiar structure had been erased as though it had never existed. Daniel stood silently at the edge of the ruins. The morning light felt cruel. Too peaceful, too normal. Thin smoke curled upward in ghostly spirals. The air carried the bitter scent of charred wood and loss. Every step Daniel took felt impossibly heavy, his body moving through a world that no longer made sense. Somewhere beneath the wreckage, he couldn't finish the thought, his father rested a hand on his shoulder, but then that comfort felt distant, unreachable. Then Daniel saw it. Near the edge of the debris, half buried in ash, Rusty's collar. Daniel's breath hitched violently. He dropped to the ground, hands shaking as he pulled it free. The leather was scorched, darkened by smoke, the metal tag dulled by heat, but it was unmistakable. Rusty's. Daniel clutched it to his chest, and finally broke. Not the desperate panic of the night before, not the wild terror of helplessness. This was something deeper. A raw, shattering grief that tore through him without restraint. Because now there was no fire, no chaos, only truth. Days turned into weeks. The farm moved forward the way life always does, relentlessly, almost offensively. Repairs began, ash was cleared. Foundations were rebuilt. Neighbors helped. Fences were restored. But Rusty's absence lingered everywhere. In the quiet yard, near the barn that no longer stood, beside Daniel's bed, where silence now slept. One evening, as the new barn neared completion, Daniel walked slowly across the field. The sunset burned softly along the horizon, a gentler fire painting the sky in gold and crimson. In his hands he carried something simple, a small wooden marker. He knelt beside the barn. The earth was cool beneath his fingers. Carefully, Daniel pressed the marker into the ground. No grand monument, no elaborate tribute, just a name. Rusty. Daniel sat there for a long time, the wind whispering softly through the fields. The animals grazed peacefully nearby, unaware of ceremonies, unaware of sacrifice, yet alive. All of them alive. Daniel's eyes stung, but this time his tears came quietly, because grief had slowly made space for something else, something eternal. Love. And as the evening breeze moved gently across the farm, Daniel could have sworn he heard it. A distant bark. Not Rome, sorrow, but from a guardian who had never truly left.